One cartoon can make the most powerful politicians run for cover. One cartoon can turn public opinion. And Sudhir Tailang is one of India's best cartoonists. We can see his cartoons in the Asian Age every day. Earlier, he was with the Hindustan Times, the Times of India, and the Illustrated Weekly of India. In this show, we're going to see Sudhir Tailang's best cartoons and talk to him about the art of cartoon making. You're watching Art Talk. I'm Jujhar Singh. Sudhir, hi. A very warm welcome to the show.
Hi.
Who are your favorite characters these days?
Well, these days, there are quite a few characters who I love to draw. Kejriwal, for one. Manmohan Singh also is quite one of my favorite caricatures.
I liked your cartoon of Arvind Kejriwal riding the Congress auto to the Chief Minister's office. Sheila Dikshit was the driver, and she says to him, "Zarur chalenge bhaiya, lekin meter kharab hai."
Yes, this is the same problem that we face every day in the city. The auto drivers fleece you. They are the most notorious people in the city. And let me say, I did a series of cartoons on auto rickshaws some years back. And in fact, in that, I used actual incidents and actual registration numbers of the auto rickshaws. And they appeared every day. The first cartoon appeared, Delhi police took note of it. Generally, they don't take note of what you do in cartoons. They just take note of what happens in the newspaper, in the news stories. But they took note of it and they cancelled the license of the auto rickshaw. Second, I did another cartoon and second auto rickshaw driver lost his license. So 1 week it continues and 7 people lost their licenses. And the 8th day, I was sitting in my office and my chaprasi came running to me and said, "Saab, chup jaiye kahin. 1000 auto rickshaw wale office mein aa gaye aapko peetne ke liye." So for the first time, I realized the power of the cartoon. It can work like this only also. And Arvind Kejriwal, actually, let me say that he's the smartest politician. You know, he hijacked the Gandhi cap from the head of the congressman and converted into his own cap. "Main aam aadmi hu, mujhe swaraj chahiye." All these things, all these slogans written on the cap.
Even the Aam Aadmi slogan.
Everything.
Because the Congress slogan was,
yes,
Congress ka haath Aam Aadmi ke saath.
And they have taken this Vande Mataram and Bharat Mata Ki Jai was registered with BJP. They have hijacked this slogan also. In fact, he has hijacked everything from other parties and turned into his own USP.
You had another cartoon of Kejriwal where he's announcing free water for Delhi people.
Yes.
And you have a bureaucrat telling him, "Shouldn't be a problem, sir. All the water reserved for cannons can now be given to the people for drinking."
Yeah, that's right. You know, because Kejriwal himself in government, you won't need the cannons. Because all the cannons
because they were using the water in water cannoning people, protesters, during the Lokpal agitation and the Delhi gang rape agitation.
So there'll be enough water, which was reserved for the cannons, will be used, can be easily used for the people for drinking.
It just shows how cartoons can make the most potent comments in a very clever, funny way.
That's true. You know, I personally feel that cartoon is a combination of both journalism and art. And I think it's one of the most powerful mediums in any kind of art form.
It's actually a visual editorial.
It is a visual editorial. See, I personally feel that a cartoonist is like that child in the story who had the guts and the innocence to tell the emperor that he had no clothes on. This is the innocence and the...
What's the story?
The story of the emperor, everybody knows that the emperor had no clothes. Everybody thought that, because everybody knew that the emperor was naked, but nobody had the courage to tell him that he had no clothes. Everybody was praising his clothes, which were invisible, there were no clothes on. And the child sitting in a corner, standing in a corner, watching the emperor, had the innocence and the guts to say, and the courage to say, that the emperor had no clothes, he was naked. And this is my job to tell the emperor that you are naked. This is my job to tell Manmohan Singh, this is my job to tell Atal Bihari Vajpayee, this is my job to tell Lalu Prasad that you are naked.
In fact, you and your cartoons say a lot in very little. Talking about Manmohan Singh, you recently had a cartoon where Dr. Manmohan Singh was coming out battered and bruised from this upside-down India car and saying, "Modi as PM would be disastrous for India."
That's right. In fact, I did it recently when he had his press conference. But he made this a statement that Modi would be disastrous for India as PM, if he became PM. But last 10 years record, if you see, and particularly the UPA 2 record, if you see, Manmohan Singh has been the biggest disaster in this country in the last 65 years. You have never had an ineffective prime minister like this, and a prime minister without any power. So helpless prime minister, I've never seen in my life. And that's the beauty of this prime minister. That's why I love him. In fact, he has been the gift from the God for a cartoonist like me in the last 10 years.
And then you have this other cartoon where beggar passes a resolution asking the Prime Minister to start meddling in India's internal affairs.
That's right. This beggar is my common actually. It appears in, he has a begging bowl and he's sitting in a footpath most of the time and making comments. So I did this cartoon particularly because I think some statement from Pakistan came. And Manmohan Singh had said that stop meddling in India's internal affairs. So I took, this was a pun on it, that because he was not taking any interest in internal affairs of India. So he's saying, the beggar is saying that please start meddling in the internal affairs of the country. You are the Prime Minister of the country.
You've had a lot of fun at Manmohan Singh's expense.
You know, Jujhar, I did a complete book of cartoons on Manmohan Singh. And this was my first book on any one character. It was on Manmohan Singh. And I called it No Prime Minister. You know, taking a pun on Yes Minister, the British, sitcom. Now, when I did this book, naturally I wanted Prime Minister Manmohan Singh to release this book. So I sent a dummy copy to Manmohan Singh's office and requested that the Prime Minister please release this book because it is on you. There are 150 best cartoons on you in this book. And after a couple of months, I got a reply from one of his officers saying that the Prime Minister says that he would feel very embarrassed and awkward releasing this book. So I got Manmohan, to release this book, I got Shatrughan Sinha and Amar Singh. And they were both delighted to release this book.
You have this other cartoon of Dr. Manmohan Singh. He's sitting in his office. He has portraits of Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi behind him. And a reporter is asking him about a cabinet reshuffle. And Manmohan Singh says, it's her prerogative to offer him a berth and his to refuse. Please don't drag me into it. I'm a mere Prime Minister.
That's the whole point. I'm a mere Prime Minister. Because I got a call from some of 3-4 politicians that day when I did this cartoon. And they really had a hearty laugh
it's pretty funny.
At this thing, I'm a mere Prime Minister. Because the poor fellow said, I'm a mere Prime Minister, I can't do anything. But it's been fun doing cartoons on Manmohan Singh. You know, initially when he became Prime Minister, I never thought that he would be such a great success as a cartoonist, as a cartoon character in my cartoons.
It reminds me, by the way, another cartoon you've done of him. A bureaucrat says to Manmohan Singh, Sir, yours is a greater sacrifice than Sonia Ji's. You've renounced the PM's post while being the PM.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What can be a greater irony when you renounce the post of the Prime Minister while you are still in office? And this is exactly the same thing, the thing which has happened with Manmohan Singh in the last 10 years, that you remain in the seat while you don't remain in the seat.
It's sad, isn't it, how he's fallen from grace?
I think the dignity of the Prime Minister's office, the respect of the Prime Minister's office has actually gone down in the last 10 years, simply because of the dual centers of power. Sonia Gandhi enjoys power without having any responsibility, and Manmohan Singh has no power without having all the responsibility.
Yeah, but UPA 1 was actually fairly decent. UPA 2 has been a disaster.
No, UPA 1 also wasn't very successful. If you look at that book, No Prime Minister, there was no Prime Minister actually during that period, and there was no Prime Minister at all in the second UPA avatar.
Tell me, Sudhir, how often do politicians call you up angry at what you've drawn of them?
See, it happens many times when I get a telephone call from a politician. And sometimes they're angry, sometimes they're happy.
Give us some examples of when they've been angry.
I was sitting in my office in Hindustan Times, and there was a call from a minister's office. It was Dr. Murli Manohar Joshi. He was HRD minister at that time. His secretary called me and said that Mr. Tailang, the minister is very angry with you today. Please speak to him. I took the call and I said, Joshi ji, why are you angry? I haven't drawn any cartoon on you today. He said, I'm angry because you haven't drawn me for the last 6 months. And it's a fact that if you stop appearing in cartoons, you're no longer in business and politics.
You're important if you're coming in your cartoons.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's, in fact, see, why I say that Kejriwal has made his mark in politics, because he started appearing in cartoons.
You once made this cartoon where you showed the then External Affairs Minister Jaswant Singh coming back dressed in Taliban-like attire, entering the then Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee's office. Now, this was just after he had exchanged 3 terrorists for Indian Airlines passengers. I believe Jaswant Singh called you up the next day. What happened?
You know, I got a call from Jaswant Singh ji next morning, and when the cartoon appeared, and he said that, Sudhir ji, I love this cartoon you did this morning, and I would like to, can you gift me the original? I would like to hang it in my study, frame it and hang it. I said, Jaswant Singh ji, I'm happy that you love this cartoon, you want to hang it in this study, but for what reason? I've drawn you as a Taliban terrorist. He says that I'm looking very cute in Taliban clothes. I gifted this cartoon.
Looking very cute in Taliban clothes.
Yes. I gifted this cartoon to him, and he used it in his book also. You know, one of his, I think his autobiography, he used this cartoon. Yes.
And I believe that Atal Bihari Vajpayee, in fact, once called you to his home, right?
Yes. Vajpayee ji called me to his home, and I spent about 1 hour with him. And I talked to him. I, in fact, wrote a piece also in Hindustan Times. I was there at that time. And
what did he say?
From very close, he loved his cartoons. In fact, earlier also, when he was party president at one time in the 80s, I believe, I did, because something was happening every day in Delhi, either Delhi Bandh or some other agitation, and every day something was happening. So I continued to draw one cartoon every day on Atal Bihari Vajpayee. And 7th day or 8th day, I think he called, Sudhir ji, ab bahut ho gaya, bas kijiye. It was his copybook style, you know. In his copybook style, he said, Sudhir ji, bahut ho gaya, maaf kijiye, in a very jocular way. But he was a funny character, and he loved cartoons.
I believe you also had a very funny incident with VP Singh on a plane or something like that.
Yes, I think I was on a flight from Hyderabad to Delhi or Delhi to Hyderabad. And I found Mr. VP Singh sitting there in one of the seats. And one of my friends was also traveling with him, a politician, Mr. Wasim Ahmed. So Wasim Ahmed said that, Sudhir ji, come, I'll introduce you to VP Singh Saab. I went to him. I think he had freshly lost power. So that was the time when he had freshly lost his power. And I was introduced to him. And Mr. VP Singh was, I told Mr. VP Singh, I said, Mr. VP Singh, I must admit that yours was the best government that India has ever had. Jaipal Reddy was sitting next to him. He said, Jaipal ji, look at this young man. Everybody criticizes my government. Here is a cartoonist who says that mine was the best government. I said, Singh Saab, let me complete the sentence. I said, so far as we cartoonists are concerned. You know,
I would have liked to see his face at that point.
You know, VP Singh was initially difficult to draw, but then his fur cap, his sherwani, that became his trademark. I always drew him in this sherwani and fur cap. And the funniest part was that even in June, July, which is very hot in Delhi, he was wearing a fur cap and a sherwani, complete full sherwani. I continued to draw him even when he lost his prime ministership, and he was not wearing these clothes. And he removed the fur cap. I remember once I had an exhibition of my cartoons, and he came straight from Apollo Hospital after having a session of dialysis because he was having a kidney problem. He came there, but I was surprised because he has stopped wearing a fur cap and sherwani. He was wearing a fur cap and sherwani. He came to the exhibition in this attire. I said, I'm really surprised, Mr. Singh. So what a pleasant surprise. You stopped wearing this long time back. How come you are in a sherwani and a fur cap? He says, Sudhir ji, I've come to your exhibition so that I look like your cartoons because you have not stopped drawing me in fur cap and sherwani. So he had a sense of humor. After all, he was an artist. He painted also. He was a poet also.
Sudhir, what does it take to be a cartoonist?
You know, a lot of people think that a sense of humor is the biggest thing that a cartoonist should have. And cartoons are supposed to be funny. But my opinion is different. I don't think that cartoons have to be funny. Many of my cartoons are somber. Many of my cartoons are tragic also. And in fact, most of my cartoons are tragic. Because a cartoon is, after all, a point of view of the common man. It is I'm the spokesperson of the common man in my cartoons. And I think it's a bridge between journalism and art.
How much is it art? How much is it journalism?
I would say 70% journalism, 30% art. Because even if I do a bad drawing with a brilliant idea, it's going to click. But if I do a very elaborate, absolutely brilliant drawing with a stupid idea, it won't succeed.
On the journalism side first, how much effort you make to keep up to date?
You know, Jujhar, one has to keep reading all the newspapers. And nowadays, because the immediacy of news on television, because news changes very fast. At one time when I would read the morning newspapers till the evening, and based on what had appeared in the morning newspaper, I would draw my cartoon, which would appear next day. But today, if I do the same way, my cartoon would be very, very obsolete and stale. Because things are happening throughout the day, and newspaper, in fact, television and internet are covering news every second, every moment. So most of the time nowadays, I do something which has happened during the day, so that my cartoon can appear along with the news item next day.
So it's very topical.
It has to be very topical.
Okay, and on the art side,
It's like live telecast.
Yeah. Now on the art side, I know you've never been to art school. So how did you learn how to draw?
You know, that's I think it's an advantage
And
also.
draw so well.
It's an advantage also, Jujhar, because you know, if you go to an art school, you are steeped in some kind of stereotypical, you know, rules of drawing. You know, they teach you through books and things like that. But a natural way of learning art is, I think, more spontaneous. So I'm more spontaneous than if I'd been in an art school and had the training. And perhaps it gives me the freedom to be more natural because I'm not governed by any kind of artistic rules.
But it's important for cartoonists to have their signature style, isn't it? To differentiate themselves from other cartoonists.
I think, Jujhar, your style actually evolves. You know, you never begin with a style. You only arrive at a style. You know, and what happens is that it's like your hand, the lines on your hand, they keep evolving. It's like your face. It's like your voice.
But now, how would you describe your style now?
I can't describe my style because it has evolved over the years,
well,
in the last 30, 40 years.
I mean, one can see very clearly you have clean, bold lines to begin with.
I can tell you the technique of my cartoons and how these
for example, R.K. Lakshman does a lot of detailing. Yes. You're more into clean, bold lines.
That's true, actually. I'm not afraid of the white space in a cartoon. Some people are afraid of white space, so they fill it with everything. I'm not saying that it's not a good thing. Some cartoons, like say for example Mario Miranda, who is no more and who was a dear friend of mine. Mario filled his cartoon, every inch of it was like Jaisalmer stone carving. Every cartoon, every nook and corner of it is filled with something or the other. I like absolute free space for my cartoon. I'm not afraid of the white space.
Yours are clean.
I want a lot of oxygen in my cartoons. My cartoons are clean, to the point, direct, and the focus is on the real characters and the caption.
Now, all cartoonists, you know, exaggerate the striking features of their characters. What do you achieve by doing that?
You know, cartooning is not really distortion. It is presenting the real picture. Like a cartoonist had once said that a caricature is not what you look like, but what you ought to look like. And all these characters who appear in my cartoons,
but you actually exaggerate the features probably
as they ought to look like.
Yeah, but I'm sure that most of your characters don't like those features, those particular features exaggerated. For example, why would Lalu Prasad like, you know, the hair of his ear to be blown up?
Lalu loves it. Lalu loves it.
Oh, he does? He does?
Of course, Lalu loves his cartoons. And
that's so funny.
The other day I was in Patna some years back and Laluji invited me home for a cup of tea. I went there, me, Laluji and his wife Rabri Devi, we were all three sitting in the lawn. I made a caricature of Lalu Yadav. And Laluji said that, why are you doing my caricature? I'm not the chief minister. My wife is the chief minister. Please draw her caricature. I did a sketch of Lalu Yadav's wife, Rabri Devi, who was chief minister at that time. And Laluji said that, can I have a look at it? He looked at it and he said, और सब तो ठीक बनाया है, लेकिन इसका lipstick नहीं बनाया है. Lipstick नहीं बनाया है. I said, Laluji, I know nothing about your wife's lips. You know better. He said, मुझे दीजिए. And his wife said that, he asked for the pen also. He said, अभी मैं इसको ठीक कर देता हूँ. Laluji took the cartoon I did of his wife and started correcting it. And Laluji's wife, Rabri Devi, kept saying, आप इसको सत्यानाश कर दीजिएगा, आप मत कीजिए, आप खराब कर दीजिएगा, you will spoil it. And finally, after 2 minutes, he completely spoiled the cartoon and returned it to me and said, हमसे नहीं होगा, I can't do it. I said, if you could do it, then I would be chief minister of Bihar. So he loves his cartoons. But in Lalu's case, it's very difficult to draw him because a lot of people are under the impression that it's easy to draw Lalu Yadav. But it's very difficult to draw a caricature of a caricature.
Okay, now you've also made several strong statements on contemporary issues. One where the Supreme Court recriminalized homosexuality via Section 377 of the Indian Penal Code. And then second, you know, you have this demon driving a bus while the women passengers have been assured that, oh, you know, the tinted glasses and the curtains, etc. of the bus have been removed. That's a very powerful statement.
Yes, I did it during the Nirbhaya case. You know, when Nirbhaya case happened, I did this. I did quite a few cartoons on the rights of the women and the security of the women in the places like Delhi. And because Manmohan Singh's response and the Home Minister's response was very, very, casual. They said that when something happens in a bus, they say we'll put, cameras in the buses. We'll put remove tinted glasses in the buses. You have to actually check the driver. You have to check actually the security inside the buses. Security in the whole city. Unless you do that, these are all superficial things. Like putting a camera somewhere in a bus. If there is a rape in a bus, you'll put a camera in a bus. If there is a rape in a lift, then you'll put a camera in the lift. Now this is knee-jerk reaction. You need better from your Prime Minister and the Home Minister.
Sudhir, let's also explore your older cartoons. Now you've covered 10 Prime Ministers of India. Who's been your favorite?
So far I've drawn from Indira Gandhi to Manmohan Singh. And my favorite to date remains Mr. Narasimha Rao. Initially, I thought it would be very difficult to draw his cartoons because he's so respected, an old man, very scholarly, and highly respected. But then within 6 months, he turned himself completely to the delight of a cartoonist. He transformed himself as an absolutely fitting character for cartoons. His nostrils, very big nostrils.
His nostrils.
Big nostrils, flaring all the time. And his pout became a landmark of Delhi.
His famous pout,
It became a landmark of Delhi. And not only the face, the working style also. Like he never moved an inch, sitting in chair. In fact, I did a cartoon also, sitting, I made him as some kind of a statue. And a pigeon had made a nest on his top of his head. And suddenly, he took some action about something after a long time. So the pigeon is saying that, oh, it's moving.
You also have Gandhiji appearing regularly in your cartoons. I love the one where Rajiv Gandhi goes to Rajghat and what Gandhiji says to him can actually be applied to most of our politicians. Gandhiji says, how come you're here today? It's neither January 30 nor October 2.
That's true.
That's a very sharp comment.
Yes, this is actually this is true, Jujhar, that Gandhiji's pictures are cleaned, his statues are washed only on his birth anniversary or death anniversary. And Rajghat is a place where politicians go either when they become Prime Minister or they take oath of something or a foreign dignitary comes. Otherwise, Gandhian philosophy...
Otherwise, we don't really remember him or his values.
Yes, Gandhian philosophy, Gandhian values are something which are to be showcased only during elections or only during something like Gandhiji's birth anniversary or death anniversary, and advertisements have to be released from the hard-earned taxpayers' money.
It also reminds me of this cartoon you've done of a political party office with lots of suitcases around there, suitcases of cash. And of course, the irony is that you always have a Gandhiji portrait behind the office.
This is true. I think I remember this cartoon perhaps. It was in Hindustan Times some years back. And it was when Sitaram Kesri became the Congress president. I think I did this cartoon during that time. And I said that because there were a lot of allegations of, corruption on the Congress party. And I did this cartoon that Sitaram Kesri is entering the office with lots of money lying there, that now you got a treasurer to look after the party. Because he used to be the treasurer of the party earlier.
How much do you believe that cartoons help change opinions or decisions?
I think I've been doing cartoons for the last 30 years or so. I hardly believe that any of my cartoons has changed any politician at all. They hardly change because they've looked at a cartoon. I don't think cartoons can change things, but I think they work like some sort of an continuous bombardment, and it does make an impact on the minds of the readers. Because, after some time, people start looking at a politician through his cartoons. For example, you
are shaping opinions.
It does shape opinions.
Like any other major article editorial might.
Yes, it does. I think that, and people look at a politician through his cartoons. Like Narasimha Rao, for example. I would even give you an example of how a caricature changes. Like initially, my caricature of Narasimha Rao didn't look like Narasimha Rao. But then there came a situation where Narasimha Rao's caricature and Narasimha Rao himself started looking alike. And there came a situation where when my caricature of Narasimha Rao started looking more like him than he himself did. That is when you capture the true character of a politician. And that is when, I must say that through this kind of caricature or cartoons, people start relating to that politician. And for example, if in Lalu Yadav, nobody believes in Lalu Yadav, but they believe in Lalu Yadav's cartoons. Nobody trusts Manmohan Singh, but they trust Manmohan Singh's cartoons. So after some time, every politician turns into a caricature. And the caricature takes over, actually.
I suppose you also chronicle the times, and perhaps better than most other genres of artists.
Because, you know, political cartooning is about contemporary subjects.
Yeah, and it's direct.
And it's very direct. It's not abstract art. Cartooning is not abstract. It's not like saying that, making a circle and saying that it could be sun, it could be something else, it could be moon, it could be a woman. If this is Narasimha Rao, then it's Narasimha Rao. If it is Manmohan Singh, it is Manmohan Singh. And, you know, I would say that Cartoonist is the angry young man, or I would say that a hero in cinema hall, in Indian films.
Yeah.
For example, when Amitabh Bachchan as angry young man would appear on the screen and thrash some of the villains in the film, people would clap. They would say, that's what I want to do. And this is what Cartoonist does. We thrash the villains of the society, of the political scene.
Well, cartooning is a very potent form of art, and you're one of its most brilliant exponents. It's been very interesting. Thank you very much, Sudhir, for joining us on Art Talk.
Thank you, Jujhar.